For a certain group of very high performers, aging is no longer a fact of life. They're starting to see it as a technical problem, an inefficiency in the system that you can measure, manage, and ultimately optimize. So today, we're going to dive into the disciplined world of biohacking after 50. And really, it all boils down to this one provocative question. What if the decline we all associate with aging just wasn't inevitable? And look, this isn't just about living longer. It's about a relentless, disciplined pursuit to hold on to your strength, your mental sharpness, and your sense of control for as long as you possibly can.
Okay, so you might be wondering, why the sudden obsession? Well, if you're an individual at the absolute peak of your influence, I'm talking about running companies, shaping policy, managing incredible wealth, the normal signs of getting older are seen through a completely different lens.
And this really gets to the heart of it, a huge split in how people see aging. For most of us, right, aging is just a natural journey. But in these elite circles, it's a technical problem that needs to be managed. A tiny loss of cognitive speed isn't just a personal thing, it's a professional risk. It could affect a decision that impacts thousands of people. Suddenly, decline becomes an inefficiency that has to be solved.
This all comes from a particular way of thinking. It's about taking the principles of engineering and systems analysis and applying them directly to our own biology.
At its core, biohacking is all about being proactive. You're not waiting around to get sick. The whole goal is to use data to prevent decline before it even gets a foothold. It's about maintaining peak function, not just trying to avoid disease.
And the way they do it is super methodical, almost like a science experiment on yourself. It all starts with measurement, getting tons of data from blood markers, hormone levels, sleep trackers, you name it. Then comes the analysis, where you pinpoint any little inefficiencies or risks. And finally, you optimize, using targeted, data-driven changes to fine-tune the whole system.
Okay, so what does this all actually look like day to day? Well, the modern biohacker has this whole toolkit that mixes cutting-edge tech with some really disciplined lifestyle habits, all aimed at extending that feeling of vitality.
The interventions are pretty comprehensive. You see things like cold plunges, which are all about managing inflammation. Then there's red light therapy for cellular repair. Of course, wearable devices are constantly streaming data. Nutrition becomes hyper-personalized, tailored to your specific genetic and metabolic markers. Even hormone levels are carefully adjusted, always under close medical supervision. Some go as far as tracking their biological age, a measure of their health at a cellular level, to literally try and turn back the clock.
Yeah, so this is not some weekend hobby. For the people really deep into this, it's a full-on, highly disciplined lifestyle. They often have a whole support team of doctors and data analysts, and the way they measure success completely shifts. It's not about how many years you've lived, but about how many years of high performance you've managed to preserve.
But you have to ask, why is it the wealthy and powerful who are leading this charge? Well, it really comes down to a unique set of advantages that most people just don't have.
It boils down to three huge advantages. First up, obviously, is the resources, the money to afford continuous testing and personalized care. Second, they have access to emerging science and new research way before it becomes mainstream. And third, they have the incentive. In their world, peak performance is literally tied to power and influence.
But it goes deeper than just the practical stuff. There's a really interesting psychological angle here. Think about it. If you've spent your entire life mastering huge, complex systems, like markets, companies, or technologies, the idea that you can't control your own biology, well, that can be incredibly hard to accept. Biohacking offers a way to feel like you're back in the driver's seat.
And that psychology, that's where we find the really deep emotional drivers that are fueling this whole obsession with optimization.
Data replaces guesswork. Protocols replace passivity. Control replaces surrender. Aging is full of uncertainty, and for a mind that's used to being in charge, that's really unsettling. Biohacking offers a structure to fight that feeling. Data gives you answers, protocols give you a plan of action, and together, they create a powerful sense of control over what feels like an inevitable decline.
So it makes you wonder, is this whole intensely disciplined thing really driven by a deep love of life, a desire to experience more of it? Or is it maybe more about a profound fear of losing that edge, losing relevance, and losing the power that comes with it? The truth is, it's probably a messy combination of both.
Now, this whole trend isn't just happening in some isolated bubble. It's actually part of a much bigger cultural shift in how we all think about aging, and it has some pretty big implications for society.
What we're really seeing is a total reframing of what it means to get old. You know that traditional idea of gaining wisdom with age? That's kind of being pushed aside for a new story where aging is a technical problem to be solved and where youthfulness is seen as a sign of competence. Looking older can start to feel like you're falling behind.
And wow, this opens up some huge questions for everybody. Like, what happens if dramatically extending your healthy years becomes a luxury good, something only the rich can afford? It forces us all to step back and think about how we define a meaningful life and whether longevity is something to be engineered or something to be experienced.
And I think this gets to the real heart of the matter, the ultimate limit of this whole approach. Science, data, and technology, they are incredibly powerful tools. They can extend our physical abilities in ways we're just starting to wrap our heads around, but they can't answer the why. They can't give you a purpose.
Look, trying to live longer and better, that's an ancient human desire. But the tools we have now are just on another level. So it leaves us with a final, really critical question. It's not about how many years we can tack on to our lives, but what are those extra years meant to hold? What is the purpose behind the pursuit of more time?